Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our HashiCorp Solutions Engineering Hangout hosted by Patrick Gerzen. Today, we're going to talk about HashiCorp Nomad. So HashiCorp Nomad enables organizations to deploy, manage, and scale any application, containerized, legacy, or batch jobs across multiple regions on private or public clouds. So Patrick's actually going to discuss how to integrate Nomad and Vault so that applications orchestrated by Nomad can easily retrieve secrets from Vault. But we're actually going to do something a little fun today. Patrick's actually going to walk you all through an actual little hands-on exercise through Instruct. So he just put a link in the chat, and go ahead and click on that. It's going to take about 3 minutes once you click through for it to, he's his screen for it to kind of actually build that track. So go ahead and click the link right now so you don't have to wait and get that going. And if you're having any questions or issues with that, just drop it in the chat for us, but that should get going. And then I also want to note that, so this webinar will be recorded. We'll post it on our website and email it out to all of you afterwards. It usually takes about a day or two. And so with that, we will go ahead and get started. I'll hand it over to Patrick. Thanks, Patrick.
Oh, hey, thanks, Amanda. So when you do click on the link that I put, hopefully everybody can find your chat. So go to your Zoom chat. I posted it in there 3 times because what I notice is as attendees come and go, sometimes it doesn't go to their Zoom. So if you don't have it, just message Amanda, and I'm sure she'll put it in there again. You'll come up with a screen like this, and this is our Instruct track. What I'd like everybody to do is there's a start button here that says verify the agents are running. So we're going to go ahead and hit start, and you should see that it's creating the environment. So this is where we're going to begin. That's going to take about 4 minutes, and while that's spinning up and everybody's just kind of waiting for that, we're going to do a little talking. So again, my name is Patrick Gerzen. I'm an SC here at HashiCorp. Been here about 9 months, and I was asked to do this more as an integration to part of an advanced class. It was a lot of fun to build. I had a good time, and I just want to share with everybody what I've learned. For your information, just kind of a shameless plug here for Nomad. Nomad just dropped a brand new version this week. I think some of the things that I find really interesting is the container storage interface, but also we have new auto scaling. So if you were doing some sort of scaling with Nomad in the past, you can now auto scale automatically with these APIs. Task dependencies, again, if you have different types of workloads, you can run them in a sequence. And I thought this was actually one of my favorite options, which was running the exec in the UI. We're not going to probably do that today, but we will. But I want to point that out as a really cool option that I always struggle with flipping in between screens. Just the final thing is at the bottom here. There's going to be a technical deep dive. We're not going to cover this today. We're going to go through just the Nomad stuff, the integration piece with Vault. But if you're interested, you can register for this live webinar. And I can take that and I can post that in the chat if anybody's interested. And they'll go into all those new release features in detail. So what are we doing today? It's really pretty simple. So I spun up a HashiStack server is what I called it, because it has Nomad Vault and console on it. And we have 2 clients. So what are clients used for? Clients are used for distributing load. So think about it this way. When I talk about Nomad to people, I'm talking about capacity. The clients are of the available capacity, and we can distribute different types of loads automatically out to them. And they end up in little containerized pieces or separated. One of the things that Nomad, I think, kills at, and I think really people don't take advantage of, is it runs every type of workload you can think of. So if you have a Windows machine, you can go ahead and run Windows on it. If you have Java, you can run Java on it. If you have containers, you can run containers on it. So any of those types of workloads will work in this environment. So if you have those types of like maybe legacy systems and you'd like to get them into more of a cloud type pattern, Nomad's really the way to go. Now, you don't really have to know a whole lot about Nomad, Console, and Vault for this demonstration because it's going to be pretty straightforward. But it does help to know, know those products a little better. And if you choose to, you can go ahead, and we also have additional learning tracks for each of those, for Console, for Vault as well. And you can learn the basics of it to get better versed in how you would set up something like this. Again, at the bottom, you'll see here is the track we're going to use today. And in addition, there's also a Medium blog. If you forget what I'm saying to you, there's a Medium blog that I wrote that'll go through all the same stuff. So let's check out how we're doing here. We're back. Perfect. So we're gonna integrate Nomad and Vault. So everybody, please hit the start button at the bottom, and you should come up with something that looks like this. Now, over here to the right, you'll see the files. There's one root folder called HashiStack, and in here, you'll see like the configuration files for each one of those. This is open for you to take a look at. So like, for instance, we can come here to the client key, and it'll show us how I actually configured the client key. Not really going to go into it because it's not really pertinent to what we're talking about. But I noticed, like, if you want to build your own HashiStack, you could use some of this stuff. Now, Vault is kind of interesting because when we fire up Vault, we're firing up a production instance. And if you know anything about Vault, Vault comes sealed, meaning when you seal it, there's an encryption key. And that encryption key, if it's ready to go, but it doesn't know how to decrypt the data. So you have to unseal it, and you have to initialize it. And when you do both of those, you're going to get two things. You're going to get the unseal key here, and you're going to get the token here. So this is your root token for today. Again, the unseal key we probably are not going to use, but the root token we will use. And this is the beginning of how we set that whole thing up. If you click on the server tab above, we're going to run some commands. This is kind of fun. I made this whole class so you don't have to do any typing because I'm not very good at it, frankly. I kind of hunt and peck or search and destroy. But you can come over here and you can do, if you click on these, you can do copy to clipboard, and then you can do a paste. I'm on a Mac, I do Control V, but if you right clicked, you could also paste it that way. So let's check out how many server members we have. We have one. That's exactly right. Let's check out what our node status is. Yes, we have 2 client nodes. Okay, we're on a roll. Client, the console members. Yes, there's 3 console members flying around. And then finally, Vault status. Again, when you look at this, the big thing that you want to pay attention to is it's initialized and it's sealed is false. So it's ready to be used. So your HashiStack environment's ready to go. Click on Nomad, you can see that we don't have any jobs, but we have 2 clients and we have a server, which is right. We got a console, console's wiring everything up on the back end. We have Vault, we have 2 clients, we have the Nomad server, and we have the console server. You could come here to Vault, and if you wanted to, you could put your root token in here, and we could actually see that Vault actually has nothing in it. Now, that's really handy if I want to confirm things. Today, we're going to be using a lot of like command line type stuff. And I will just tell everybody, if you don't do the command lines and you try to do everything through the UI, in Instruct, it'll actually fail on you because it's looking for these commands. So I just encourage everybody to stick with the UI, or I'm sorry, the command line, which is this. So everybody hit your check button. Correct. We did it. We got through that piece. That's awesome. Let's move on. Okay, so this is kind of the beginning of knowing a little bit more about Vault. So when you create Nomad, you can use the root token, but it's usually really not such a good idea to use the root token. You want a Nomad to have its own token, because the root token, we're going to save it somewhere safe where you can't get to it. So what we're going to do in this one is we're going to create a token using um, the role token. I'm sorry, the token role, and I'll show you how to do that. Come here to the files, and we're going to go to our Vault directory. And if you notice, a new configuration came in here, which is the Nomad server policy. If you take a look at this, I mean, there's a lot of, again, if you're not familiar with Vault, that's okay. What's really going on here is we're creating a token role. So we're saying, hey, Nomad cluster is this role. And in this role, we're going to go ahead and we're going to allow it to update itself and read. So it's going to be able to rotate its own token. And then it's going to be able to add some other things like read, look itself up, revoke itself. So there's a bunch of capabilities we're going to give this token rule. And it also, by using this approach, you can limit the set of policies that the task managed by Nomad can access. So we're saying Nomad can only use this. So the first thing we want to do is we'll come here to the server. We're going to change directories. We're going to go into the Vault directory. So this is a pretty straightforward command. Okay, now we're in the HashiStack directory. And we're going to go ahead and write this policy into Vault. So again, this is straight up stuff that if you were using Vault, you'd do this all the time. Policy write, the name of my policy is Nomad server. You took a look at what was on the inside. Let's go ahead and do that. And then finally, we're going to create a token. So hopefully, if it didn't go through, you wouldn't get the success. But we'll go ahead and run this command. Now, one thing I'd like to point out, which may or may not be interesting to you, is this orphan command. Normally, when you create tokens, so like if we're creating it off the root token, you're going to get this parent-child relationship. By me calling out orphan, we're saying, hey, if the parent like expires or gets revocated, I'm really all by myself. I'm my own thing. So if you don't use that flag, then you could actually be deriving for something that expires. And the other thing I want to point out is you're not going to see an output because we're going to write it out to this text file. And then I'll show you what's in the text file in just a bit, okay? So let's go ahead and run that command. Awesome. And everybody hit the checkbox. All right, at this point, we created a Vault token role, and we're going to try to do some restrictions. Okay, we're going to make sure that Vault, that Nomad can only use certain policies, and also Vault can only use certain policies. Just to bring to everybody's attention, this is your notes screen. If you click on this arrow, you'll kind of see what the token role looks like. And if you notice here, it has something called allowed policies. The rest of this is kind of normal stuff. I mean, again, Nomad cluster we put in there. We're giving it a period, it's orphaned, it's true, renewable. But it says, hey, we can only use the access tables policy. So this is the only policy allowed for the Nomad cluster. If you wanted to like disallow things, it might look something like this. So, you know, we never want, in this particular case, we're going to disallow policies Nomad server, which we're not working with. We're only going to work with access tables right now. So you could kind of do it both ways. You have a black list and a white list, depending on how you want to take care of that. Everybody click on the start button. And this is a pretty straightforward exercise. Why don't we take a look at what, let's see, is it here? Yeah. Let's take a look at this Nomad token text file. This is what it outputted, okay? Now, You'll notice we have a token here. This is the Nomad token we created in the last challenge. But we got to kind of modify some things in the setup because right now the configuration for the server doesn't know about this. So I'm going to come down here to my server HCL. And you'll notice here at the very bottom, we have create token and a place to put our token. So I'm going to go ahead, grab the token out of the top here. And then I'm going to open up the server HCL. I'm going to paste that rascal in there. And then I have to enable it. Now, the biggest trick that I find that most people with Instruct is they forget to save it. So you'll find like a little disk drive, little floppy disk at the top here. Go ahead and save that. And now you're ready to go. So now we can run, now we can, we have that portion ready to go. We're not gonna update that just yet. This one, we're gonna take a look at the role policy here for JSON. So let's take a look at this real quick. Yes, this is the access table stuff. We're good there. We'll go ahead and write that policy. So come to your server tab and blammo, done, success, cool. If you do have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat window. You know, if we have time, I can answer them on the fly, or we can do whatever we want to do. Talked about reconfiguring Nomad server. Again, we changed out the token, we enabled it, we're good to go. And then I just want to also point out, you don't have to on the clients. Remember that we have 2 clients. You don't have to change those at all, because Nomad is going to pass that token to the clients and they're all going to work in tandem. So there's no reason to really put the Vault token into the clients. Hit the start button. And we went ahead and we saved everything. We reconfigured the server. We put in the Vault token. So really the only thing that we have to do here is we're going to click on the server tab and we are going to run the command restart Nomad. Okay, that was pretty easy. I think this is going well. No questions. Everybody seems to be doing really good. Let's click the check button. Uh-oh, something went wrong.
Oh, hey, Patrick. Someone's saying that
Yes,
enabled equals true instead of enabled equals enable.
enabled equals true. Where are you seeing that?
I don't know. That's what they typed in, though. That's all they said. Maybe somewhere in the.
Oh, okay. Let's, oh, I know what they're talking about. Yeah, let's go
Thank
here.
you from the audience.
There we go. Thank you. Bad typing.
Group
My bad.
effort.
Let's try that. Let's see what
People
that
are
does
paying
for me.
attention.
Oh, you guys, you're killing it. Okay, so we're going to deploy a database. In my particular case, I probably have to run this command again because I just updated. So we're going to restart the server. You don't have to do that. So in this particular portion, we're going to deploy a database. So this is a PostgreSQL database. I have it pre-populated with some information. If you come over here to the Nomad file, let's take a look at that real quick. So I have a DB Nomad. This is a standard job. I have a data center called Instruct, and it's a Docker container. So we're going to use the Docker driver. Again, if you're using like a Java program, you could do that. Windows, There's just tons of different ways that you can run workloads on Nomad. And then I'm calling the image out. This is actually going to pull it down from Docker Hub. And I think the biggest thing that I'd like to point out here is on my my deployed database is we have 2 port maps. So we're going to open up port 5432, which is the Postgres map on the container. And then on the actual client, we're going to, which is the client node, we're going to open up a static 5432 so we can get to it easily. The rest of this is just service information. It's pretty straightforward. So why don't we go ahead, copy this. We'll run it. You'll see that information come up. And then let's just check the status of it real quick. So we have a healthy status. Just for kicks, what I do is I like to come over here and check the Nomad window as well, just to make sure it's running. So you'll see the database here. And then when it's fully running, when we have our health checks going and all the rest of it, we should see like a healthy indicator here, which just happened. So that's kind of cool. The other thing you'll see here is console added the database. And so again, our enterprise service registry is being dynamic, and it's adding the stuff in so we can use it for other programs and things like that. Very cool. Everybody go ahead and check the status again. All right, so now we got the database rolling. We have like policy set up. Now we have to get Vault talking to the database. So we're going to do a few things. We're going to enable the database secrets engine. We're going to put in some different, we're going to give it a connection string. So one of the things that I think people ask me is they say, well, okay, well, here's your connection string and the username and password at the front. Are we going to see that every time? And the answer is no. It's really only for Vault the first time. You'll just see like Postgres, you'll see some information. It'll just show really the database service if you had to pull in information. This username and password will kind of disappear. Again, we've specified limited access to the allowed roles, so we did that already. Let's go ahead and hit the start button. All right, so click on your server tab. And here in the we're going to enable the Vault Secrets engine, which is pretty straightforward. Beautiful. And then, again, we took a look at that JSON. I just want to show it to you one more time. If you look at the connection information here, Postgres demo, okay, I'm cool there. Let's go ahead and copy that. Great. By the way, I want to just point out one other thing. That connection string is going to allow Vault to rotate the credentials. So we always talk about dynamic credentials when we're talking about Vault. Nomad's no different, or applications are no different. We're going to give our application a token, and then what's going to happen is it's going to go to Vault and say, hey, can you give me access to this? Vault is going to dynamically generate that information, credentials for you in the database, and pass those back so you can get it. If you were a user, if you're an application, it doesn't matter. It all works kind of the same way. The connection string is just to get it there. Okay, so let's take a look at this the statement here. So we got the connection string. This is where we're going to write the DB name. The creation statements are in this access DB SQL statement. Okay, and you'll notice here that the TTL is 1 hour and the max TTL is 24 hours. So this has got to get rotated within 24 hours. Our typical one is 1 hour. Let's take a look at that file real quick. So here's the access DB SQL. You'll notice here is we're going to create a user. So Vault's going to create a user. It's going to specify a password and expiration date, 1 hour in this particular case. And it's going to give its super user access. So that's probably a little unsafe, but because this is just a demonstration, that's kind of what you're going to get. Let's go back over here to the server tab and let's run that. Beautiful. So we had written our SQL to the database, and now we could go ahead and create some credentials. So let's check that out. So we're going to read creds from AccessDB. Boom. Notice here I have a 1 hour lease, I have a password, and I have a username. So this is exactly what an application would get. We're doing great today. The last thing is, let's make sure that the access tables policy is written. Okay, perfect. So now we're good to go. We can actually move on to the last stage here. So now we've got a database and we need a web application. So in this web application, we'll go through this, but you're going to see a few stanzas. You'll see the Vault stanza. We're going to use console template, which I'm going to point out a little better, which is here. Let's take a look at the real file. So here's my web job. Looks a lot like the database job. Couple things to point out here. First one is, we're using a container again. So I wrote this application in Node.js, and it's a 3-tier application. It has an API layer, and then there's a single page application that pulls it down. I'm using the affinity stanza. And the reason I did that is because normally you'd put a load balancer in front of all this stuff. So imagine you've got this load balancer and you might have 10 web servers. It's going to distribute the load across the web servers. We just have a little example here. And I'm telling it, hey, my affinity is always going to be on HashiStack Client 1. So always distribute over to HashiStack Client 1 if possible. And the reason is because when we hit the application, I have that tab hardwired over to HashiStack Client 1. You'll notice here that we have the Vault policies. So we're telling it, this is the Vault policy you're going to use. And that policy, we've checked it out. It's going to go ahead and create some credentials for us. And this is really where I think is the most interesting point of the whole thing, is this template piece. Now, under the cover, Nomad has console template. And if you're not familiar with console template, what it does is it's like an event point for like Nomad, for Vault and console. And what I mean by that is with the template, you can have events happen from Vault, and then you can take some sort of action on it. So if Vault had PKI and we want to rotate a certificate, the certificate may expire. That's going to fire an action with console template. Console template might update your certificates. It'll do something. Well, in this particular case, we've kind of brought that right into our job specification, and we're saying, hey, when you run this job, we're going to go out and take a look at the database, and we want to get the address and port of the database. And then we're with the secret from Vault, so the database is going to console and looking for that service. With the secret from Vault, we want you to generate a brand new user and password for us. So that's what console template is doing under the covers. The other thing that it's doing is it's dropping it into the secrets file. You'll see it says file env. So when we fire up Nomad, it's going to inject environment variables in there, DB username and DB password, with these credentials into the container, and the application is going to be able to pick those up and use it. So the 4 environment variables that are going to get written into this, and this file is the host, the port, the username, and the passwords. That should identify us and allow us to get into the database. So let's run this and see what happens. So we fired it up. And let's come out here to Nomad, and you should be able to see a web application being fired up. Again, we're going to take a look at this. If we did it right, it's probably on, yep, HashiClient 1. So the database, both the database and the web client are on HashiClient 1. And we're healthy, so we should be able to do some stuff. So what I'd like everybody to do is just to double check. I like to kind of work the stack a little bit. We're going to make sure that it's plugged into console. So if everybody would do a dig command, this is a DNS command, you should see something that looks like this. So it's saying, hey, on port 3000, we have this available for console. Cool. Now, the next thing I want to do is, we know where we can find it. Why don't we go ahead and try to hit the API? So I'm going to run an API. We're going to pipe it into JQ to make it look pretty. If we get that like this, notice all this information is all of, we have a name, we have a description, image links, is it an enterprise class, things. We're going to use that all in our single page application. Just to confirm, we should see the database, but we also see a web client, so everything's good there. And if you come to the application, you should see something like this. Now, if you get just a white screen, you can hit this refresh button, and you should see it after a second or so. So I'll give everybody a chance to kind of do that. And if we hit the checkbox, you're correct. Awesome. So just so everybody knows, this is part of our advanced class. So you just took an advanced subject. Hopefully you got something out of it. Sebastian's saying correct. I'm like, way to go, Sebastian. So Amanda, I think that's the end of the demo. Is there, where would you like to go from here?
Yeah, so we do have a few questions, Patrick. And so again, if anyone, now that you've kind of been through this, if you have some questions on this or just even, general Nomad questions, go ahead and drop them in the Q&A or the chat, and we will get to them. So Patrick, first question, someone's wondering, how can I give different Nomad clients different Vault tokens? So for example, if they want to give two different Nomad clients a token to different Vault namespaces.
Yeah, boy,
okay.
that's a good question. I don't have a good answer for you, but I can find it out. I'll tell you what, if you give us your email address, I'll send you the answer, because that's one I don't know right off the top of my head.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, and so yeah, if the person who asked that, if you do want that, you can even just go ahead and email me. It's amanda@hashicorp.com. I can get you in touch with Patrick. So, okay, and then the next question, will console template auto renew a secret before expiration and update the Nomad job? So can it update the Nomad job without restarting the Nomad job?
Yes. Yeah, so it's not really console template, it's really the job itself. So when when you actually get the tokens going, we only have a lease of 1 hour. If the lease expires, yes, it'll automatically rotate that token. Another question that I had, which I thought was really, really good, hopefully everybody can appreciate this. I did the same demo for my peers, and rough bunch, they asking really hard questions. And one of them was, hey, we had to cut and paste this token into Nomad from Vault, and does that auto update? And the answer is no. What you really want to do is, if you think about it, if you've got a full Nomad stack, You're hoping that if one server dies, that token, the other two are going to carry the token on. And Nomad is renewing its own token regularly. But if your whole cluster went down, we had 72 hours left. If it goes past that date or that time, 72 hours where you have the whole thing down, then we'd have to start over and paste the token, create a brand new token in Vault, and then paste it back into Nomad to get it to connect again.
Okay, and then Patrick, the original question, someone did give some clarification. So they're saying the one about console template renewing a secret, it's not about the vault token. They're saying in their example, what happens when the lease expires on the database credentials?
Nomad will automatically renew it. It'll automatically go out and get a new set.
Great. Okay, and then next question. So can Nomad use Vault internally? For example, can Nomad use Vault to pass secrets to a Docker credential helper?
Yeah, totally.
Great.
I mean, we didn't do that today. Yeah, no, like, sure. You can use, boy, there's so many easy ways to do this, but yeah, that's very doable. I don't have a good example for you, unfortunately, but again, if you give me your email address, I'm sure I can cook something up and show you how that's done.
Yeah, and I think maybe on that point, Patrick, just to do you want to like kind of clarify, reiterate like how, Nomad really works across everything, containers, legacy, everything.
Yeah, yeah. See, and that's one of the selling points that I think, again, people miss is they're like, well, it's the same things as like Kubernetes, and it's really not. There was two papers done. There was a paper done that Kubernetes came out of, and then there was another paper called Omega that came out of the Google team. And really, the platform of Nomad, again, is all about, we're not going to tie you to containers. You can run Windows, and we can inject credentials into that if you want to do that. You can run a Java application and have that jar, that JVM. We can inject all sorts of stuff into that, whether it's through console or Vault or whatever you want. It's super flexible. It runs on hardware, like just solid hardware. I just did a demo for somebody on that today. You can run it out in the cloud if you want to. It's only a single binary. Super flexible. We've got all sorts of good examples of that. And I think, man, you like Roblox is a good one, right?
Yeah. So yeah, everyone, I'll include the link in the follow-up email. But we actually just had a case study come out with Roblox. Many of you might know it, especially if you have kids at home. There's a lot of Roblox usage going on right now. But Roblox fully runs on Nomad, and so we just released a case study, kind of walking through, how they're leveraging it, how it's making them successful. So we will include that link. It's on our website. Okay, and then just a few more questions, Patrick. So one person's asking, they're wondering, I guess, how to integrate the Nomad, Nomad and Vault with secrets. They're saying already existed on an AWS account. So I guess they mean, can they integrate it with AWS Shell?
Yeah, you can. So in order to do this, you need to know a little bit more about Vault. And Vault itself has a AWS plugin. So the way that we typically use Vault, so again, this isn't even Nomad. Nomad, you saw how we get credentials from Vault. We set up policies with Vault. This is really more of a Vault functionality where we have a native plugin to the AWS environment. And so if you have existing, you can tie into like an existing IAM account, or you can have Vault create brand new credentials on the fly every time that you want to go out and talk to something. You would write policies, much like we did for the database, to go out to resources out in AWS. And Vault would do the exact same thing. Think about the workflow. I'm a person or an application. I call Vault to give me some creds. It's going to go to the AWS site. In this case, it went to the database, but it would go out to AWS. It would create a brand new maybe IAM role for you. It may give you credentials to a database. It may connect you with a server, whatever you want to do. And then it's going to pass those credentials back to you, whether you're an application or a person. And then you can go out to AWS and use that resource. So that's kind of the general flow of Vault all the way around.
Great. Okay, thanks, Patrick. And then also some clarification, since folks have been asking, I think so. So the instruct lesson that we went through, people can people access it after this?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's public.
great, yeah.
As a matter of fact, this might be worth looking at. So I did a blog, and all the links and the talk track are in here.
Are in there. Okay, so yeah, Patrick mentioned at the beginning, he also wrote like a companion blog to this. So they're linked in there, and we'll also include the link to his blog in the email of the recording. So, and we'll post it on we'll cross-link it on the website too. So wherever you go, you can access, the instruct link, the slides, the blog, everything. Okay, great. And then a few more questions, Patrick. People are asking as we keep talking. So in your experience, do people end up leveraging only console template for passing secrets, or do you see customers that write Nomad applications which run their own Vault client, including authentication?
Yeah, it's both ways. This was just, so like if you think about think about it this way. So if I had a container I want it to be as atomic as possible. So I mean, think about it. When we have a web application, I want something to inject secrets into my system, which is kind of what we were doing here. Now, that kind of makes it so I can move it around, and all I have to know is if I populate these environment variables within the container, I'm good to go. If you wrote like a native application that took advantage of Vault directly, yeah, you wouldn't have to go through any of this kind of stuff. It would just kind of do it.
Great. Okay. And then I think this is the last question, unless if anyone does have more, go ahead and, don't hesitate to submit it. We're happy to answer it. So when the credentials for the DB are renewed, will Nomad restart the application container or send a signal like SIUP so my app can reload the config without a restart, which I have to manage on my own?
Oh, think about it this way. So these are environment variables in my application. They're not static. So like, it's not a config. I mean, if I change the environment variables in my application, the next time it goes to talk to the database, it's just going to grab whatever those are. And those are always fresh. If you had like a config, so don't think of the file env is the same as a configuration file. That file env really injects environment variables into the container directly. So I just spit it out as that file, and when it spins it up, it's going to keep those credentials fresh. So when the lease is up on it, that console template's going to run again automatically, and it's going to update all those container environment variables, so you don't have to do anything.
Great. Okay, so then I think that is the end of the questions. So thank you everyone for submitting those. And a big thank you to Patrick for walking us through that demo today and walking us through everything. So as mentioned at the beginning, the recording of the Hangout was recorded. It's recorded. We will post it to the website along with all the links for everyone, as well. The instructor lesson will be available, so you can always, go through it again, or if you, came late or something, you can go through it later. So I'll send an email out to everyone who registered with that link. And then if you did like what you heard today, you kind of thought, hey, Nomad's pretty cool and you want to learn more. We did just do a big release on Nomad this week that Patrick mentioned at the beginning that's on our website. And then you can also explore other lessons on Nomad if you go to our website, or if you just type in learn.hashicorp.com hashcorp.com/nomad. That will take you straight there. And that has lots more educational content that's self-led that you can walk through. So I hope you all enjoyed today and have a better understanding of what Nomad can do for you. Thanks for hanging out, and a big thank you to Patrick for his time. Have a great day, everyone. Goodbye.